Hello, my crafty friends. It's Michelle, the Southern Shell, and I am here with the Shabby to Fabby Take 5 collaboration. This is a collab that I am actually new to, and it is hosted by Christy with Funky Junk Inspiration and Jeanie from Jeanie's Palette. Guys, check out their channels below. I've been watching some of their videos lately. They are new to me, and I think you will enjoy watching them. Guys, the playlist will be linked in the description box below, along with links to their channels. I can't wait to show you what I created today. Project number 1 turned out so shabby chic, but I definitely think I took some shabby stuff and turned it into fabulous Christmas decor. Okay, guys, so I have some Waverly Pink Cloud. I have some Waverly Sheepskin. I have some DIY. I have all kinds of different tones of chalk paint here, and I'm just going to pick some beautiful pastels out. So I decided on 3 different colors for my bulbs, and I am going to take this little canvas here, this real thin 8x10 canvas from Dollar Tree, this picture frame from Dollar Tree, and I have those little ornaments up in the corner from Dollar Tree. And they are so old, they still have the dollar sticker on them. Okay, so I am just going to, first of all, just take this frame apart, and I am going to prime it with my gesso. So this is just acrylic gesso in white, and I'm just going to come in and put 1 coat all over the outside of this frame. Nothing fancy. I don't need it to be a full color. I just want to put something over that frame. So I am now taking this piece of styrofoam that came out of a package, and it's really one of those spongy ones. It's not one that like crumbles apart, which is great for this. And I am just trimming it to fit that piece of canvas there, that stretched canvas on cardboard. And I am going to come in and trim this out in the shape of a tree. Super simple to do. I just made a mark in the center on the top and came down from each corner up to where I cut that little mark on the top. And it's so easy to cut this type of foam with scissors. So that's all I needed to do. And I have this perfect little tree triangle that will fit on my board. Now I am going to come in and do a straight edge across that. And I am just going to trim it up a little bit more because I don't want it quite that long on this board. And I'm just going to come in and cut that off, and we're ready to move on to the next part. Now, I wanted to think really carefully about what glue I used because of the styrofoam and the canvas. And there's probably several glues that would work great, but I knew this Beacon's 3-in-1, this thing would not come off of this canvas if, it would just tear it up, period. So I went ahead and used my Beacon's 3-in-1, and I drew, just marked little dots of triangles where my tree will fit. And I'm going to go right along the inside edge of those triangles and just lay a thin part of that Beacon's 3-in-1 all the way around the edges and then some across the center, and then lay that styrofoam right on top of that Beacon's 3-in-1, press it down, and let it dry. Once that was dry, I came back in with my gesso to go over the top of that styrofoam piece on my canvas. I went over the top of it and down the sides and a little bit onto the canvas itself. While that was drying, I moved on to my little baubles here, and these are from the Dollar Tree, and I've had them in my stash for some time. Use different pieces off of it, and the tag on there still says $1, so you know how old this package is. And I'm just picking out some of, I'm just going to pick these all out and take off their ornament toppers and get these ready to paint. So I just had some skewers cut down and poked in the holes of my little egg carton there, and I'm going to come in and paint 4 of these with my Waverly Pink Cloud, and this, for all of these, it takes 2 coats to cover each one of these balls, and you still have some of that gold shining through, which is perfect because that's what I wanted. It just looks like there's some cracks on that with some gold shining through those brush strokes just a little bit. So now I have the mint chip in the DIY paint. I'm going to paint 4 in that mint chip. And then the last 4, I will come in with the folk art sheepskin and cover all of those. Once again, 2 coats on each of these, let them dry. Now I'm coming in with my folk art Adirondack, and I'm going to cover this whole frame in this Adirondack color, and it does take 2 coats to get a full cover on this frame. Once that was done, I came in with my folk art white here, and I'm covering the canvas as well as that styrofoam that has the primer on it, and I'm giving a good coat all over this piece right here. And it doesn't take much because it's already white, so I don't care if I've got some little blotches showing through. You can't tell. Once that was dry, I came back in with this folk art in moss, and it was not, you can see me, I'm talking to my little grandson on the phone there. FaceTimes me every day. I love it. So anyway, used that and sponged all over the top, and you can tell it wasn't shook up very well because it had very blotchy outcome. I get sidetracked when I see my grandbabies. Anyway, I'm coming back in with some of that mint over the top of that one and just dabbing that sponge brush, giving some dimension, and then I'm coming back in after I've shaken that moss up and giving it another good coat all over the top of this, giving all kinds of different greens in there, and they're all still damp. So now I'm going to do some blending. I'm just going to come in and paint this whole thing up with my moss green. Once that green was done, I came back in with that same white and touched up anything around the edges that needed to be cleaned up a little bit. Super easy, all done. I love the blended look of that tree, that foam tree now on my canvas. And I came back in with my heat gun and just hit it a little bit to help it dry up a little bit faster so I can move on to the next step. I didn't want to use it too much because I knew that styrofoam would melt. So now I'm just going to use the leftovers of my foam to place out kind of where I think the ball should go, so I know that I have enough before I start on the permanent binding to my tree. Once I had the approximate placement laid out, I came in with my X-Acto knife. I have my hot glue sitting and heated up, ready to go. And I'm just going to poke a crisscross in the top of my foam, stick my hot glue tip down in there and load it up with glue. And then stick the end of that bobble right on into that hot glue foam. And this gives it such a permanent bond on here. It worked out wonderful. So I'm just going to load this up and just kind of pick and choose where I want each one of my bulbs. Just a reminder that this is the Take 5 collaboration, Shabby to Fabby, with our hosts, Christy and Jeanie from Jeanie's Palette and Christy from Funky Junk Inspiration. Don't forget to check out their channels and the playlist in the description box below. All right, let's move on. All right, y'all. So if you watch my channel regularly, you know that I put together a wreath here recently, and it went live on Wednesday. And this is pieces from the burlap. I try to save things, and I know it's silly because it's almost like I'm a hoarder, but I'm not. I don't have the gumption to admit I'm a hoarder yet. I am definitely a craft inspirationalist. Save your pieces, guys. Anyway, I took 8 pieces of the leftover from that burlap that fell apart. So this burlap was 5.5 inches wide, and any of the pieces that had fallen out, I just saved. And I took 8 pieces, folded it in half, cut it, and tied it in the center. And each of those, I went ahead and stacked them and tied them together to make some little, just shabby little rosette type pieces, little rosettes. I went ahead and grabbed my half beads now, and I am going to put some half beads on the inside of these little rosettes, and then we're going to plug them into our tree. So using my hot glue, I took one of those rosettes, hot glued a half brown bead into the center of it, and then used my hot glue to plug it into these open spaces throughout my little tree here. Here I should have put the bead on first. I do that from here on out, but it was hard to get poked down into that area with the bead on it. I had tried a couple times, so it just depends on the area that you're working at. I do find it easier to add the glue to the burlap rosette first and move on there from just deciding which pieces to fill in. I didn't want too much of that green showing in the background. I did choose the green so it would hopefully blend in, but it did turn out a little darker. I should have used some more of that mint on it in the background, but this worked out just fine in the end. I love the burlap look of it being stuffed in between each one of these baubles. So I'm going to move on and continue working with the burlap and the half beads. So from here, I went ahead and glued on a little angel to the top and drug out some of my transfers, my rub-on transfers. I picked a few small rub-on transfers to go on the end of each of the larger baubles here. And I used like pine cones and candles and something that was just a little bit of that shabby chic look to add a little bit more to my little tree here. I do like rub-on transfers, but I do like the higher quality ones. These I had gotten off of Amazon and they weren't very expensive. And you can tell that just by the texture of the rub-on transfer after it is on there. But the only higher brand that I've used is the IOD. I guess I really should try some, maybe some Prima and such. But if there's one brand that you like, let me know in the comments below what is your favorite brand of rub-on transfers. These worked out fine for what I was doing. They are so super shiny though once they are off. Do not put anything on top of your chalk paint when you're getting ready to lay these down. If you wax it or cover it with Mod Podge, you're going to have a harder time with. Once I had those all on there, I went ahead and stuck that frame right on into my Dollar Tree frame that's all painted up here. And it was a tight fit, but I got it in. And I went ahead and put the backing right back on the back of. Once I had that in, I went ahead and put some hot glue on that tree and popped an angel on top. And I sat and stared at that for a while. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to wait. I took my clear wax and went over each one of my baubles, sealing in that chalk paint. I'm noticing, oops, I forgot a bauble there. It doesn't have a rub-on transfer on it. But I had an extra one down there that I had cut out, which was a little pine cone. And so I just laid that on real quick and used my little craft stick there to scrape it on, rub on that transfer, and pull it off. And then I just continued right on doing my wax. Now, I put a little post out on Instagram and Facebook because it just didn't look finished to me, that little angel on top. And a lot of the comments were, the topper just was not, basically, the topper wasn't big enough. You needed something more on the top. I really wanted to add the fairy lights, but I was out. I had actually used all the fairy lights in my stash. So I'm like, well, shoot. So I took this piece of burlap, 12 inches, and I did an awareness bow, squished it down, and tied some burlap around the center of that to create this little burlap bow. I'm now taking some of my glue here. This is my art glitter glue, and I'm just going to lay a little layer down across the edge of that burlap so that it will not fray. Always, always, always put your pin back in there or it will dry out. Now I'm just going to make a little burlap finger bow here. I'm just going to wrap it around my fingers about 4 times, cut it off, and then I'm going to tie another little piece of that twine and tie it right down in the center. Now, using my fingers like that, it made it a little wider than my burlap bow, which is just fine. I'm going to tie that nicely, and we are going to glue it on top, and then we'll set the burlap bow on top of that. Before hot gluing it down, I am giving it a little bit of fluff, twisting that wired burlap ribbon to where I want it to be. And now all I need to do is hot glue that down on top of my tree, just on the top side of the twine bow I created. Once again, fluff it out, move it around, let everything show where you want it to show. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to trim off all of those loose twine ends. I tried to put an angel back on top of that bow. It just didn't look right. So I went right back to my beads that I had earlier and hot glued one of the large beads on top. And I think that made it perfect. All right. Since I was out of fairy lights, any of my little lights, I have these little pit berries that I've had for a while. I got these off of Temu, and I couldn't tell you how long ago, but I went ahead and picked out, I think I did 8 in total. I trimmed the ends just a little bit, and that way they can just stick right on into that tree. Then I came in with some hot glue twirled around the end wire there, and I popped each one of these throughout the tree, and this gave it a bit of sparkle that I was missing from the lights. So, if you know me, I'm trying to use my stash and not buy any new stuff, and so I'm glad I had these in my stash, but I'm sad that I'm out of twinkle little LED lights. So, that's okay. We'll move forward and find other things to do.
And there you have it, my friends. I think it turned out adorable from those shabby old ornaments that I've had around. The big bag was given to me, and adding some chalk paint, some burlap, and some twine, a few little rub-on transfers, and you can transform this Dollar Tree frame into this adorable shabby chic tree. I think it turned out beautiful. Guys, if you like this, please give me a thumbs up. If you've not subscribed, I hope you will consider doing so now by hitting that subscribe button. As always, guys, stay safe, God bless, and bye for now.